Welcome to episode 217 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast. I'm the host, Kim Newlove. Welcome to my spring 2023 update. Happy spring to you. My seasonal updates give you an opportunity to get to know me better as a person as I update you on my personal life, my podcast, my business, and what I've been listening to, reading, watching, and playing. If you are new to the Pharmacist Voice podcast, welcome. Again, my name is Kim Newlove, and I'm the host. I'm a pharmacist by training, but I'm not in clinical practice anymore. I made a career transition to voice actor and podcast host. Among other things, I narrate audiobooks for pharmacist authors, and I consult with pharmacist authors who want to narrate their own audiobooks. I also provide medical narration to clients in a number of settings, including pharma, biotech, CME, teaching hospitals, and universities. And I also teach online courses about drug name pronunciations and podcasting, and I do consulting in both of those spaces, the pronunciations and the podcasting. I enjoy what I do, and if you have a project in mind, let's talk. Contact me through my website, thepharmacistvoice.com. I was inspired by my nonverbal son, who has autism, to combine my background as a pharmacist with my speaking voice and launch my business, The Pharmacist Voice, in 2017. After watching my son struggle to speak for 2 decades, I realized the power of having a voice and using it. What do I typically talk about on this podcast? I have solo shows and I have interview shows. Upon further reflection recently, I realized that I actually have 6 different types of solo shows. The drug name pronunciation episodes are my favorite episodes, but I also have some seasonal updates like today's episode. I do updates each spring, summer, fall, and winter. The other solo shows are about being a pharmacist or a voice actor or a pharmacist podcaster, or my career transition from pharmacist to voice actor and podcast host. There's a lot of variety with those solo shows. My interview shows, on the other hand, are much more straightforward. They feature a variety of people who use their voices to advocate for something, educate in some way, or entertain so that you, the listener, are inspired to use your voice too. My listeners are typically pharmacists, pharmacy students, pharmacy technicians, pharmacy professors, pharmacy owners, pharmacist podcasters, and medical narrators. But really, everyone is welcome to listen. Thank you for tuning in today. You can find the show notes for this episode on my website. That's thepharmacistvoice.com. Just click on the podcast tab and search for episode 217. Let's dig into this update. Family first. For anyone new to the show, I'm married with 2 kids. I married my high school sweetheart back in 2001. We have been together for 30 years and married for 22. Our children are 18 and 20 years old. They're both adults. Craig is the 20-year-old and he has autism. Derek is the 18-year-old and he is what you call a typical kid. What is going on with my family this spring? The big news is that Derek graduates from high school this Sunday, May 21st, 2023. As I record this episode, that's in a few days. Oh my gosh. It seems like just yesterday that he was walking up the steps to his little 3-year-old preschool class, and now he's graduating from high school and going off to college. I could not be more proud. Derek, if you ever listen to this, I am so proud of you. So proud. All of the senior year stuff is happening right now. Track season's wrapping up. The end of the year awards ceremony for track is coming up next week. Prom was last weekend. Graduation is this weekend. And then Derek's graduation party is next weekend on May 28th. If you can't tell, May is a busy month for all of us here at the Newlove House. What is next for Derek? His summer job, of course. Derek is a baseball umpire. He's been doing that every summer for 5 years, and he really enjoys it. He's looking forward to making some money, of course, and officiating a lot of games this summer. Derek has talked about going pro as an umpire, and I do not discourage that. That's fine if that's what he wants to do. So, more on that in future updates. What else is Derek up to this summer? He'll be getting ready for college, of course. We have a new student checklist, and I know that we've got to buy all the stuff for the dorm room, like the sheets and a laundry hamper, a new computer, of course, and all the things. We'll be busy figuring all of that stuff out. Derek will be attending the University of Cincinnati to study engineering. He starts in August of 2023. Ultimately, he believes he wants to become a construction manager. Sounds great. That means he'll have to go in a civil engineering path, and we'll see how that shakes out. That's the scoop on Derek. Now, what's going on with Craig? Craig is my 20-year-old son who has autism, and he is still in high school. He will continue with high school until he's 22. We're trying to figure out if he can work or if he's going to end up in an adult day program, which is essentially daycare for adults. We're taking it 1 year at a time, and I guess what comes next is kind of unclear, but I do have his summer figured out. Craig will be stocking shelves at a local store for just a couple of weeks this summer with the support of a job coach. Other than that, Craig will go to summer school for 8 weeks, and when he's not in summer school or stocking shelves, he'll be spending his downtime with me. Part of me is excited about that because Craig loves to hike, bike, kayak, and do all the outdoorsy stuff, and it will force me to slow down and enjoy my summer. But at the same time, I am not going to be able to work, and I do feel kind of frustrated because there's not a lot of time for me to do what I need to do in the summers. Sorry to be a downer. Anyways, that's what's going on with Craig. He is still in high school. He'll be stocking shelves and going to summer school and spending a lot of time with his mom this summer. Let's move on to news about my husband, Nathan. During my last update, I mentioned that Nathan was changing jobs again. He started back to First Solar on February 20th, 2023. He was downsized in 2020. 3 years later, he's back. It's going well. They are busier than ever. Oh my gosh. And he feels like after 3 months, he's finally back up to speed about what's going on. That definitely took some time. All right, that ends the family update. Next, I'll tell you what's going on with my podcast. I have a Pharmacist authors series planned, and I was going to run the entire thing in the month of June. However, graduation has sucked up all of my time. Even though I have completed 13 podcast interviews, I have not edited them yet for this series. So I'm pumping the brakes, I'm slowing down things a little bit, and instead of having the entire month of June have all of these interviews, plus the introduction and the wrap up for the series, I have decided to stretch it out over June and July. So that's 2 months instead of one, and I find that much more manageable to even think about. I'll tell you what's on the production schedule through August, then I'll give you an update on my business, the Pharmacist Voice LLC. All right, let's start with next week, which is May 26th. I've got a solo episode planned about my mic check service. If you need help setting up a microphone for a podcast, whether you're a host or a guest, or if you need the microphone for an online meeting, check this episode out. I will be talking about my mic check service. June 2nd is the 17th episode in my drug name pronunciation series. I absolutely love those. Then Monday, June 5th is the kickoff episode for the Pharmacist Authors series. This is going to be a great series. I have interviews with 12 pharmacists and one audio engineer. The pharmacist authors that will be on the show in June are Salam Kabani, Aaron L. Albert, Sue Ojigir, Tony Guerra, Christina Fontana, and Jade Ranger. All of those are pharmacists. But then I'm also including an interview with an audio engineer named Julie Walters. Julie has helped me publish my audiobooks. She is my audio engineer. She helps me pass specs. She'll give some insights about audiobook production that pharmacist authors who want to narrate their own audiobooks need to hear. So if that's you, join me June 12th for that interview. July 3rd is the 18th episode in my drug name pronunciation series, and then I will share the interviews with the remaining pharmacist authors in my series throughout the month of July. The authors are Rear Admiral Pam Schweitzer, who wrote a children's book with her daughter Amy Graves, Corey Jenks, Donna Bartlett, Frida Wiley, Tim Ulbrich, and LaQuoya Johnson. I'll do a quick wrap up of the series on July 28th, and then August 4th, I'm back to my usual pattern. August 4th is the 19th episode in my drug name pronunciation series. Then on August 11th, I've got Dr. Ani Rostomian. My summer update is August 18th, and then Dr. Brigitte Surfety will be on the show August 25th. I'll stop there talking about the production schedule and share more in late August. I was hoping to do another back to school series in August, but I decided not to. I am just too busy with graduation, and I have to stretch things out with the Pharmacist Authors series, which then pushes my July guests to August. You get the picture. There's always next year. There are a lot of great interviews coming up this summer, and I'm excited to share them with you. So subscribe to or follow the Pharmacist Voice podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get all these great episodes. Next, I'll give you an update on my business, the Pharmacist Voice LLC. For several months now, I have been talking about not taking on new clients so I can focus on graduation and family until Derek leaves for college in August. Well, guess how that turned out? I jinxed myself. Somehow, the universe saw fit to send me a wide variety of projects to consider, so I have picked up some of them and others I'm waiting to deal with. For example, I had the opportunity to consult with a pharmacist author about an audiobook. I truly enjoyed that. That was great. I also launched my new online course about podcasting. You can find that either at thepharmacistvoice.com, click on the store tab, and you'll find it labeled as a behind-the-scenes look at the Pharmacist Voice podcast. I help pharmacy professionals decide if they want to start a podcast or not by looking behind the scenes of my podcast. You can either find that course at kimnewlove.com or thepharmacistvoice.com. Click on the store tab and then look for the behind the scenes course. So once I launched that online course, of course, people bought it, and now my podcasting student workload has exploded. I have a lot of irons in the fire, and I'll talk more about projects in my summer 2023 update. One last thing about work, and this has actually nothing to do with the Pharmacist Voice LLC. This spring, I became an independent provider for the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities. I bill Medicaid for my services as a caregiver. So, if you've never heard of DODD, the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities, that is what I'm referring to. I am not billing Medicaid as a pharmacist, I am billing as a caregiver. How did I become an independent provider for DODD? You might be wondering. What I did was I went through an 11-month-long process to get certified, and I can't tell you how happy I am to be done. It was a long process. I have not billed for a single client yet. I just literally got certified on, April 26th. I just got the green light April 26th. I'm a little busy right now, so I'm not taking clients. I almost didn't share this news, but I did mention in my winter update that I had something non-pharmacy related that I was doing, and this is it. I'll talk more about this in August during my summer update. At this time, I'd like to jump into my favorite part of the episode. It is my update on what I've been listening to, reading, watching, and playing. What have I been listening to? 3 books at the same time is the answer. I rotate them based on my mood. I have like 20 hours a week that I can listen to content, whether it's YouTube videos, audiobooks, podcasts, or whatever. I have a lot of housework to do, or, I go to the gym a lot. So I rip through content fast. Which 3 books am I listening to? Number 1, I am still listening to the NIV version of the Bible on audiobook. According to my Audible app, I have about 44 and a half hours left. That is a 75-hour audiobook, and I cannot listen to the whole thing straight through. It's not that kind of a book. I just started the book of Nehemiah in the Old Testament, just in case you're familiar with the Bible. Number 2, I'm also listening to Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. And the third and final audiobook that I'm listening to right now is a series of audiobooks. It's the second in a series by my friend Steve Edwards. It is called Everything I Wish I'd Known About Japan Before I Moved There. Steve is a voice actor and videographer who taught English as a second language to children in Japan for 20 years. That's really cool. He and I met while he was living in Japan. He just moved back to the States, and I'm really interested to hear his stories because I knew him while he was in Japan. It's kind of cool to hear the backstory of a friend. Anyways, as far as podcasts go, the School of Podcasting is still my go-to podcast every Monday morning, and I just started listening to Dr. Jamie Wilkie's Wealthy White Coat podcast. I'm on episode 9. I like it, and I think that if you're a pharmacist entrepreneur, you need to check out the Wealthy White Coat podcast. What music have I been listening to? I'm just going to mention one guy, Chris Cornell. I love Soundgarden, Audioslave, and pretty much anything he does. I was having coffee with a friend this month. His name is Zach. Hi, Zach. And he was telling me that Chris Cornell did a rendition of Nothing Compares to You, which apparently is an old Prince song, but I associate it with Sinead O'Connor back in the 90s. But anyways, Chris Cornell did his own version of Nothing Compares to You. There's a YouTube video. I watched it. I cried. It was amazing. So I'm going to put that in the show notes because if you have never heard of Chris Cornell, Soundgarden, Audioslave, any of that, you need to at least check this out because he's amazing. Where can you find the show notes? You can find them on thepharmacistvoice.com. Just click on the podcast tab and search for episode 217. Next, let's move on to what I've been reading. I'll just mention 2 things because I've been so busy with everything, I have not been reading much in physical print. I am always reading something with my son Craig, however, and our current book is Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. Craig is not really into dinosaurs, but he does like this book. After we finish reading the book, we will watch the movie. And yes, I believe we've both seen the movie before, but it's always different after you read the book. I can't wait to compare. And the second book that I'll mention is a book that Craig and I recently finished. It's called Until Tuesday. Until Tuesday by Luis Carlos Maltavian. It's a book about a therapy dog named Tuesday who helped a wounded warrior named Luis. Luis Carlos Maltavian. My son Craig had a therapy dog named Bond for 6 years. I thought maybe he would like this book about a therapy dog, and I think he did. Tuesday and Bond were both golden retrievers, by the way. What have I been watching lately? I have been watching On Demand CE from the OPA Annual Conference. That's the annual conference of the Ohio Pharmacists Association. I am so lucky that I have been able to watch CE videos, answer questions, and earn credit. How cool is that? I love it. I've also been watching Survivor, season 44, with my family. We love that show. On YouTube, I still love watching Mama Dr. Jones. She is a board-certified OBGYN and mom of 4 who talks about women's health issues. But on YouTube, I have also discovered the Chubby Emu, or maybe it's just Chubby Emu. Anyways, what is Chubby Emu? It is a YouTube channel telling medical stories. For example, some guy swallowed a wireless earbud. Why is that a problem? Well, I mean, number one, you got to pass it, but there was a risk that the battery inside the earbud would burn right through his esophagus. That's a problem. If you want to find out how it turned out, watch the video. I'll try to put a link to it in the show notes. How did I find this YouTube channel? It's all Angel and Wendy's fault. My poisoning prevention friends Angel Bivens and Dr. Wendy Stefan told me about the Chubby Emu YouTube channel, and I must say, I like it. How about the movie theater? Well, I haven't been to a movie theater since last summer, to be honest. I was going to watch Cocaine Bear in the theater with my husband, but we never got around to it. I believe it's available on demand or via streaming, however you say it, so we'll probably get around to that this summer. Definitely after the graduation party. We did, however, watch the Tetris movie on demand or streaming this spring. That was my favorite video game growing up. Tetris was my favorite video game growing up. My brother had a Game Boy. That is the handheld video game of the 80s and 90s. And my brother Andy would let me play Tetris on his Game Boy sometimes. I was really good at it and I loved it. I have so many good memories of playing Tetris when I was younger. Now, the Tetris movie was very good, definitely recommend it, and it gave the history of how the game Tetris came to the United States from Russia. I had no idea everything that was involved. Very good movie. What else am I watching? My husband and I just finished the Seinfeld series. We watched the entire series from start to finish. It only took us 30 years to get around to it, but hey, it's done. And now we're watching a show called Scrubs. It was televised from 2001 to 2010. We never saw it, but now we are streaming it and we are enjoying it as a couple. I never know how my husband's going to respond to medical shows because he's an engineer and he doesn't necessarily like medical stuff, but he likes Scrubs. What have I been playing this spring? I'm coming up with nothing, to be honest. I have played Ticket to Ride on my iPad, but no board games or card games that I can think of. If you are new to these updates, please know that I love board games, especially Ticket to Ride, Euphoria, Settlers of Catan, and I also like card games like Euchre or Dominion. There's a lot of things that I like to play. Anyways, my husband and I like to play with our son Derek, but I guess we've all just been so busy, especially on the weekends, we just haven't been playing. On that note, that wraps up my spring 2023 update. I hope you've enjoyed hearing an update on my family, my podcast, my business, and what I've been listening to, reading, watching, and playing. I gotta get back to graduation prep over here at the New Love House, so I'll end this episode by saying thank you for listening to episode 217 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast. Please visit thepharmacistvoice.com to read the show notes. In the show notes today, you'll find links to the books that I've mentioned, the NIV version of the Bible, Leaders Eat Last, the Steve Edwards series titled Everything I Wish I'd Known About Japan Before I Moved There. You'll also find links to the Wealthy White Coat podcast, Chris Cornell's performance of Nothing Compares to You, the Chubby Emu YouTube channel, my social media links, and more. If you know someone who might like this episode, go ahead and share it with them. And subscribe to or follow the Pharmacist Voice podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode right when it comes out. I'll be back next Friday, May 26th, to talk about my mic check service, like I mentioned earlier. If you or someone you know needs help setting up a microphone for a podcast or online meetings, tell them to listen to that one. That'll be episode 218. And also, if you know someone who needs my help now, send them my way for an appointment. Thepharmacistvoice.com. Click on that contact tab, send me a message. I have a lot of experience helping people successfully set up microphones. Thanks for listening today. I'll talk to you next week.